How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, the brand new is going to be the tier list for Nationals coming up. It's going to be super exciting. We have two new sets, Battles and Duad. I do not think that they're going to be that impactful. We just have some pretty good decks right now that aren't really gaining anything from these sets. Sure, we get support for Dragon Maid, Punk, Orchist, and a few other things that are pretty cool, but I really don't think that they're going to be, like, that impactful. They're pretty cool. But, you know, if we get a ban list, that would be really impactful. If Camellia gets announced for the game, that would change the game entirely. If we get Summon Sorceress in battles, that would be really fun too. We're not too close to the set, but we're pretty close to the set, so we're going to start getting some announcements soon, I'm sure. If we get the Summon Sorceress, I could see something happening with that too, especially like a Fiend pile, so that would be pretty cool. Definitely waiting to see what happens with that. But if you haven't already checked my sponsors, definitely go ahead and do so all down below in the description. And without further ado, let's hop right on into Heraldic Yugioh. This also counts for like the Nemesis variant, but mostly Heraldic. I really do think that this is really cool, and we're probably going to see at least one top Nats. It's a really interesting deck. The whale is really broken, and the cards are pretty cheap. So if you want a really good option going into Nats that's not really going to break the bank, I would say the Heraldic variant of Yugioh is pretty solid. We do have our best two decks in the game. I'm not really going to speak too much on them. Mitsuri is just the only variant I'm going to talk about because the pure variant is like, okay, it's like 1.5. The Fiendsmith variant is like almost tier 2. I don't like that one at all. You could play it, but I'm not a fan of it. But I do think that if you're going to be playing Mitsu, you should be on Mitsuri. It's the best deck in the game. There was more Droll in deck lists at one of the national events than Lancia, and Drolls are in the main. And Malice struggles hard against Lancia. Like, they just cannot get past that. And that's why they only have one national win right now and no YCS wins. Where Mitsu is battling against a playset of Droll in the main. And it doesn't really seem to be phasing it because you have different lines that play through that and around that. So that's something where even if you are getting drolled constantly, the deck still pushes through, and I think that speaks volumes as to what the deck can do and how strong the deck is. The next one here is going to be Fire King. This is just going to be like the pure variant with your extravs and your impulses. The deck is still pretty strong, and in a format where a lot of cards are just getting destroyed. You also have Malice, which could be a rough matchup for it, but it's also really good at like getting rid of the bodies as they hit the board. So if Fire King goes first, I think they have a very favorable matchup. If they go second, I think that is pretty rough. But against Mitsuri, they have a really good matchup because, again, Destruction's their friend. So they want to make sure that all their cards get popped as much as possible, and Detonator will make sure that happens, right? That and the Mirakumo. So the Fire King deck's still a very cool option. Bit on the pricier side because you realistically really do need the impulses, but that is an option nonetheless. The next one here is going to be Tenpi. It's just Tenpi. We all know what it does. Chandra is insane, and if you get caught with it at the wrong time, it can be detrimental. So make sure that you have a game plan for Tenpi, as it's something that you could see because the deck is very cheap. But the Pydras and the Genrokus did go up recently for Dragon Ruler. And I'm not really going to talk about Dragon Ruler in this. You could probably put it in, like, Rogue. That's something where I'm not a huge fan of decks like that, just because, like, it already loses to the cards that are in everyone's side decks. Because, like, if you're playing as Dragon Ruler and you're like, oh, this Lancia seems pretty cool, right? Like, it's already rough for you. Or Ash onto the Spectral is really good. So that's one thing where I don't know if I'd feel too comfortable playing that deck because it gets hit harder by all the hand traps that we already are playing. The next deck here is Momento. I'm going to put this at top of 1.5. I think this deck is extremely underrated. This is something that won 2 YCSs and completely fell off in the next format, which is crazy to me because I think this deck is very strong. And that's something that you should really consider. I think the deck can play the Fiendsmith cards really well. I think that it can play Pure very well. I think that it can play a lot of the really cool cards that we still want to, like Droplet, and it has a lot of really niche ways that it can dodge effects. So they also don't care if they're destroyed. So there's a lot of different reasons to want to play this deck. I think that it's really strong, and it's going to take a very good pilot, but I do think that going into the national season that we are going to see this deck really start to pop off. Now, we have seen a little bit of tops from the Evil Twin deck. I'm going to put it as like a mid-tier 2 deck. I do think that it's really cool. Again, we have the same issue where a lot of the cards that are already hitting the format right now hit this deck a lot harder, especially things like Muals. So that's something where I'd be a little more skeptical about a deck like this really going all the way. So I would say this is like more of a mid-tier pick, and it's probably going to be a deck that bubbles out. It's just not super strong. You play like 4 different engines in it, but again, getting hit by literally anything, or like normal summoning one of the level 2s and then getting food on the effect, that would suck, right? So just not the best deck in my opinion. I'd rather play Fire King, but it is very cool with the new cards. We have the White Forest deck. Don't play this deck. I know I'm going to get so much in the comments for this, and people are like, you're underrating that deck. The deck sucks. And, like, you could play it, and it won a regional, and that's super cool. But, like, I don't want to see people try to bring something like this to nationals and then see, like, one made it in, or, like, it didn't even, like, bubble that well. I don't think this deck is going to do as well as so many other decks. Because, like, I would rather be on Fire King over this deck. Like, I would not want to play it. Realistically, it's going to be, like, bottom of tier 2. And that's something where people are like, see, this is where it's fine. Some people are going to argue it's like, oh, it's 1.5. That's just extreme cope. If I even put any respect on it, it would be, like, bottom of tier 2. But my personal saying to you, do not bring this deck. Don't play this deck. It's not good. But I guess I'll put it in bottom of tier 2 because it's just gonna cause an argument regardless, but I don't like that deck. I don't think it's good. I would not play it. Another deck that I think is a really strong contender right now, we already saw a few results and a national top as well, is Melodius. This is the deck that can play some very strong cards like Orange Light, and this is something that a lot of people kind of just forget about it, because you do have the side deck card too for the in-archetypal monster that protects you from destruction. So it's really good into the best deck of the format. This is a deck that is very cheap, and if you want to play something for nationals that you could really get into Top Cut with, it's probably just Melodius, honestly. I like this deck a lot. I think it's a really smart choice. Bottom of 1.5 here, I have the Kashtira Fiendsmith deck. I do think this is something that we do see anyway. It's really strong still. Unicorn's still a super powerhouse of a card, and then the Fiendsmith cards have unlimited grind, it feels like. So definitely a deck that I could see doing really well moving forward, and that's something where if you want to pick up something that, again, Fiendsmith cards can be a little bit pricey, but somewhere in the middle of a price range, I would say that this is definitely a good call. I think even a Momento is like pretty cheap if you're just playing like the pure variant. So there are some more budgety options for you going into this event if you want to do well. Mermail is just rogue. I know I'm going to get a lot of comments for that too, but the deck just sucks now. We don't have Bahamut Shark. It's just not really worth playing. You can't really put up too good of an end board. And yeah, you can still rip cards out of your opponent's hand, but it's just not... Like, it had its moment in the spotlight, but now it's just kind of like, alright, like, you had your time, right? Next one here is going to be Blue Eyes. It's going to be Blue Eyes or Blue Eyes Fiendsmith. It really depends on which one you want to play. It's up in 1.5, which is still gross, but it's just something that is topping a lot lately, and that's something where you want to make sure that you are prepared for a deck like this. This is something that you could see into your event. You probably will see it, like 1 to 2, I would say, but it should be around the room quite often, so make sure that you are prepared for that deck as well. Regenesis Cash, I would say this is also up here, like top 3 of tier 2. Not the craziest deck. The Regenesis cards are really cool though, and then mixing it with the Cash tier cards is really neat. I've also seen the cards being mixed with like the Max Metamorph cards. I think those are also very cool. So that's something where you kind of want to make sure that you have a good understanding at what the deck can do and what it needs to do to succeed. If you're not already playing things like Deck Lockdown in your side, I would consider it heavily. I like that card a lot. When I'm playing against things like Mitsuri, I've always seen that card just make people auto-scoop. So Deck Lockdown, still a very strong card, and it's coming back even stronger now, so that's something where you want to make sure that you have that in your deck list. The next one is going to be the Odon deck. This is going to be like top of 1.5 next to Momento. The deck itself is still doing really well. Having the Fiendsmith cards available to you as well is really nice. This is always going to be one of those things that you have to prepare for, and no one's really playing back row out. You could see like a Lightning Storm or a Duster in the sideboard, but it's not going to be extremely common or brought in a whole lot except for like Malice, right? So that's something where you want to make sure that you have a good idea of what this deck can do, so you have a good way to stop it. The next one here is going to be Cristron. This, again, is just kind of chilling up here in tier 2. The deck is really good when it's in Steven Santoli's hands, but other than that, it's like pretty mid. You just need a really good pilot who understands what the deck does, right? The deck itself is very cool. It does a lot. It has the Horus cards. The Horus cards are some of my favorite cards in the game. I think they're super awesome. But it's something that you kind of have to play perfect, and you're already playing against Lancia in the format because of things like Malice. So make sure that if you bring this, you're just very, very versed with the deck, because it can be very hard to play. But you also kind of just have the effect of a lot of people still don't really respect the deck enough or have read the cards. So you can get away with a lot when that's the factor. I think the deck itself has a pretty good chance at doing pretty okay in the event. I think that it at least takes up 1 to 2 spots in the top cut. And last but not least, Striker Orchist. I think this is just going to be like Topper Rogue. I think that we could see one, but it's going to be like 0 to like 0.2% chance that you see one in the room, right? I think that it's pretty cool, and we might see it because the new support is actually pretty good. But I can't really guarantee that it's going to be like that good, you know? So we'll see. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, definitely let me know down below in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.